Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood podcast. I'm your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and today I have with me the fabulous Jesse Wroblewski. And he's coming to you from New York, correct? Is that where you are now? Okay, awesome. Welcome, Jesse. So,
thank you for having me.
As usual, folks, we're going to have a conversation around, I'll tell you a little bit about who he is, the official, then we're going to find out the juicy tidbits behind the scene. And today we have a really interesting, bizarre, weird conversation about AI and/or decommoditizing direct mail marketing or human climate change. Maybe any or all of those different topics, and how tiny shifts in behaviors what they say about how you should be marketing in the future. So I love that we're looking forward in terms of trends, what's happening, what's changing. So I'm really happy you're here. So I'll tell you, Jesse James Wroblewski, sorry, I was late last night. I'm not at my best. Has been at the helm of a New York marketing agency for close to 3 decades. His often offbeat work has been featured in Rolling Stone, the book 505 Weirdest Websites Ever, and Fangoria, as well as a plethora of other media outlets. That's really cool. I have not even heard of 2 of those, 3 of those, 2 of the 3. After the realization that the entire marketing industry has gone insane, he retooled, reimagined, and reemerged as something different, something more powerful than the marketing world has ever seen. Ready to share his new vision for the world, he proudly presents Marketing for Supervillains, Diabolical Tips on Differentiation, Decommoditization, and World Domination. I love that. I'm all about benevolent world domination. So welcome. I am eager to hear about the, turning the marketing world on its ear. I love your office. Is that a background or is that your actual office?
It's my real office.
Oh my
God. It's all vintage Carnival used items, and
yeah.
When the clients don't pay, I got the giant hammer to keep accounts receivable. So yes, it's all real.
That's good. Everybody needs that. All right. So Jesse, obviously you're an interesting dude. So tell me something about you that people would not guess, looking at you and your background or your website or anything like that.
So I am mostly a mild-mannered guy, but for one reason or another, like weirdness is attracted to me. So luckily I like it. But one of the stories that I did include in the book is that I came very, very close to designing a website for the mafia.
What were they marketing, just out of curiosity?
So if we get into the book, I have 12 different ways to successfully differentiate yourself. And one of those ways is exclusivity and scarcity. It's basically manufactured exclusivity. So one of the examples is if you've ever gone to like a really high-end hair salon, they have their shampoos and their conditioners, and they're like 3, 4, 5 times the price. And what I didn't know or I didn't realize is that those manufacturers do a lot behind the scenes to make sure those bottles never end up on the shelves of a Walmart or a local store, because that would decrease the perceived value of the overall product. So what they do is they actually print individual numbers, serial numbers on the inside of the bottle. So if they do happen to find a bottle at Walmart, they look at the number on the inside and say, hey, Jeanette, this came from your salon. How did it get out of your salon into Walmart? We're not going to sell to you anymore.
Oh.
So I had a client that sold a lot of hair products online, and we're sitting in a meeting, and these 2 like scary guys walk in, and they start talking about how they have this laser that will remove the numbers from the inside of the bottle without opening the bottle, and so on and so on. And it didn't hit me until my mom, brought up like, oh yeah, you're working for the mafia. I'm like, no.
Oh my goodness. Oh, people will find a way around anything.
Yep, for every lock, there's a key. Yep.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Well, so how did you get interested in, well, obviously AI is the latest hot thing. What's your interest in it? What do you think it's good for? Or how?
So right now, AI is synonymous with efficiency, not so much innovation. right? So AI can do all these things incredibly fast, incredibly efficient, but you don't really turn to AI for new ideas or new music. Or new content. So I liken it almost to, I think we're going to experience, if you remember CGI when Jurassic Park came out, everybody was like, oh my God, the dinosaurs, CGI is incredible. Now, if you tell someone, a movie's a CGI extravaganza, they're like, I really don't want to go see that. It lacks the human connection. So
Mm.
I think we're kind of living through that again. Like AI is like the flavor of the month. Everybody wants to see what it's going to do. But if we ever get to the point where everything is, an AI fully created movie, or if I had a magazine that was fully developed by AI, you probably wouldn't subscribe to it because it's not really known for innovation. It's just,
Mm.
aggregating existing data. So I think that's kind of like where we are right now. So I'm interested to see who the first company that really kind of creates an innovation engine. That will be really interesting to me.
Interesting. Because I know people who use it to create things like a play or a book or whatever. So one would think that that's creative, and it is creative, but it's not creating newly.
Correct.
It's taking other ideas and mushing them together and coming up with something. And so, what do you think is the most valuable tool for entrepreneurs, or the most valuable use of AI for entrepreneurs right now?
So for entrepreneurs, it's a difficult conversation to have. So I'm gonna try and keep this car on the road, but everyone kind of looks to the efficiency and creating things in mass, right? So I went to I wrote a screenplay and I went to a conference to try and sell my movie idea. And there was a data guy there. This was 2016. And he was talking about all the trends in TV and movies. And he said something happened in 2016 that never happened in the history of humankind. And he said, at one point, people were completely willing to pay more for less. And I said,
Mm.
what does that mean? And he said, you're going to start to notice back in 2016, you're going to have your cable company with 200 channels, and maybe they're going to charge you $100 a month. That's about 50 cents a channel. And then you're going to have people that are completely willing to pay $5, $10 a month for one channel, say the BBC, right? So we're moving to a place where content is just so abundant. People are willing to not only pay more for less, they're willing to pay for a curation to say, you know what? I'll pay a little extra to get all the trash out of here just so I can focus on what I really like. So if you take that, I call it human climate change. It's this slowly moving thing. If you take that into social media, which we're already kind of seeing, the algorithm, right? You post something and no one sees it because the algorithm didn't like you. If you take that and you exponentialize it, now everyone that's posting uses AI to post 100 different iterations of what they just posted. The availability of eyeballs to see all these iterations are going to go down, 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 down. So I think it's tempting and it's probably practical now to use it in the efficiency process of iterating your ad 100 different times. But what I would use it for, I think the best use case is finding your voice.
Mm.
Um, you had mentioned you're working with or starting a new concept for maturepreneurs. Did I say that right?
Yep.
So one of the most difficult things for any entrepreneur, but if we want to tailor this to maturepreneurs,
Hmm.
it's finding your clear and concise voice as a brand,
Hmm.
right? So one of the exercises that I do with my clients as we try to differentiate themselves is I ask them to choose a fantasy spokesperson. Could be living, dead, real, fake person, a character from a book that really resonates with them. And whatever they say should sound completely authentic coming out of that spokesperson's mouth, speaking to their audience. So if someone says, oh, I want to be, I want my spokesman to be Don Draper from Mad Men, everything we write should sound completely authentic coming out of that person who speaks for the brand. So a lot of people will automatically go to, I want The Rock to be my spokesperson because they have huge pull, and they kind of go to these kind of bigger, more powerful that don't really resonate. So what I love to use ChatGPT for, particularly when building a brand, is you can create a brand statement or create a message and
Hmm.
say it in this person's voice and say it in this person's voice and this person's voice. And it will give you the same post in different voices. And sometimes it's easier to kind of relate that to a character.
Right.
And if you choose something and ChatGPT is, kind of regurgitating it in that person's voice and it doesn't really sound like you may have the wrong spokesperson.
Right.
So, a lot of people say like, oh, I like JetBlue. They're kind of whimsical with their messaging, or I like, Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank. He's to the point, no nonsense. Finding that voice that really resonates with your true authenticity is a challenge. But I think AI can be a huge help if wielded correctly.
Yes. Yeah. And trying to get it trained and in your voice is not an insignificant task. It does take some input and some work. I find even though it's trained in my voice, it still wants to be ridiculously over the top about a lot of things. It likes a lot of adverbs and awesome and so forth. And I mean, I do say that once in a while, but not like it's way over the top. Yeah. Anyways, so you mentioned human climate change. Tell me a little bit more about that and what that means.
So it's interesting. I think, you and I have lived through a lot of technological iterations where the kids today, right? Kids today, their main iteration is like iPhone 10, iPhone 11, iPhone 12, or iOS, right?
Yeah.
So there aren't many like massive things, but we're living through right now between the cord cutters and the cord nevers, right? People that have never had cable, they've never had an antenna, they've just always had everything on demand. So kind of identifying these things and how it really reflects on how people are starting and continuing to consume content.
Hmm.
And I think every business owner in the world is a content creator, right? You can't really compete nowadays if you're not on social, you're not blogging, you're not sharing your expertise. So knowing how your audience is taking that content in is super important. If
Hmm.
there's an unquenchable thirst for your particular content, by all means, AI, exponentialize it. But like I said, if people are willing to pay for that intermediary filter to block stuff coming through, a lot of businesses out there, particularly small businesses, they just post like a monologue. It's not like a dialogue. They just post, here's my latest newsletter. Here's the latest swag we got. Here's this. And just people aren't resonating. They just basically say it to be part of the conversation. Like I tell people, like I'm not a big party guy. Kind of, I show my face so people know I was there, and then I'm gone. And I think a lot of business owners think that way on social media. It's like, hey, I'm going to post something, and then I'm out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
you know, knowing how your audience eats up content is just as important as the content you're serving up.
Well, and so how do they have a better sense of that? Because I know for me in my own business, part of the challenge is having time to create content myself. So I have team members that do create stuff and do some engagement with people, but not much. And I do try and go in and do a little bit of engagement, but so many platforms, so little time kind of thing. So how do we effectively create conversations instead of dialogues? Because I think that is really the biggest challenge. Real
Yes,
connect with real people.
there's no one answer, but I think, in 2024, almost everyone is now of the marketing mind, right? So everyone's posting something. And it's like, oh, I posted a picture of my kid on his bike and that only got 12 likes, but the picture of my kid at the beach got 60 likes. And I think everyone kind of has that mindset of why is this resonating and why is that not resonating? And
Mhm.
like I said, there's really no right answer. It might be long form content, it might be short form content, it might be comedic, it might be something that's highly capable of going viral. It may be strictly informational. I think that's the key, figuring out and doing your own market tests, putting stuff out there in different formats and seeing what resonates best. And we have this incredible luxury that we didn't have years ago, seeing engagement and clicks and likes, as opposed to in the 80s, you'd run a TV commercial and you wouldn't know who saw it, who liked it, who,
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So we have a lot of luxuries now, even though the market is incredibly saturated.
Yeah.
Utilize those luxuries the best you can.
Okay. So, and in coming back to this human climate shift, it's not really late last night. I'm not on my game this morning. So tell me a little bit more about what are some of those those subtle changes that you see that is shifting marketing overall. So what should we be paying attention to in terms of human behavior when it comes to changing our marketing?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're all finally attuned to it, whether we notice it or not, but just the how difficult it is to generate new prospects. I
Mm-hmm.
think in 2017, the average person sees 5,000 ads a day. And here we are in 2024, that's more than doubled.
Mm-hmm.
So go out, leave your house in the morning, you're seeing more than 10,000 marketing messages a day. So from a business owner's perspective, a brand perspective, marketer's perspective, you're one of 10,000. How are you going to make sure yours stands out? Whereas, back in the days of the 80s, you put a commercial on TV a couple times, everyone in the world can kind of regurgitate
Yeah.
your tagline, your jingle.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. So, just keeping attuned to, what you're experiencing is what all of your clients are experiencing. If you feel overwhelmed and you've never responded in your life to an unsolicited email, chances are, when you send out your next email blast, you can manage your expectations to what you can expect as far as a response rate.
Well, and speaking of that, let's talk about decommoditizing direct mail marketing. So, because we are almost all doing direct mail in some way, shape, or form, newsletters, nurture campaigns, email sequences, et cetera, et cetera. How do we stand out and how do we get opens now? Because you're right, I unsubscribe from at least 3 things a day.
Yeah, so what the situation I found myself in was one of the largest direct mail manufacturers in the country
Mm-hmm.
came up with these new products, new mailers, new formats, very cool stuff. And it actually increased open rates and response rates, etc. But there was a problem because nobody in their right mind would answer the phone and say, "Hey, Jeanette, you want to talk about direct mail formats that could really increase conversions?" It's just there's so many messages out there that it just becomes white noise, right? There's almost nothing you can say to get someone to say, "Oh yeah, I'll take your call," right? I'll set up a Zoom and we can talk about envelopes and postage and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So we had that challenge. How do we have something really good? How do we get people to actually just take 5 seconds and just listen to us and give us the time of day? So we created what I called the conversion factory, which was basically Willy Wonka
Mm-hmm.
meets direct mail. And we had the super fun series of videos that the salespeople could send out. The first one, the direct mailer was called a marsupial because it had a pouch on it that no one ever designed before. So we got an actual kangaroo in the studio, and we've been making direct mail pieces. We got the kangaroo popping around and pooping on everything. But it was these types of things that kind of like got people excited for the next episode and willing to drop their guard a little bit and have a conversation about direct mail formats. So
Well,
it
that's
was,
interesting.
yeah.
Give us some examples of the kinds of direct mail things that you're talking about and how people could use them. Because I use Mailbox Power, which is like send out cards, to send thank you cards to podcasts that I've been on, or to my team, or to clients for their birthday, that kind of thing. And they often remark on it because they don't often get very much mail that's not bills anymore. So how do you see incorporating direct mail in a business?
Yeah, so it's funny. You would think if you were a betting person and I went to Vegas, I would personally put my money on, do you think direct mail is dying or growing, right? So in the world of digital, you would almost always put your money on, I think it's dying, and it's actually growing. It's bigger than it's ever been. And I think the reason is it's a guaranteed impression, right? So you buy all this digital ads, you get impressions out the wazoo, but you don't know if anyone really saw it. They could be, screening right by your
Yeah,
by banner. That direct mail piece hitting your mailbox, and I'm sure your send out cards are,
yeah,
personalized. The more you can do, it's a guaranteed impression as opposed to, on digital, there's nothing anybody can guarantee. So it's definitely a more tactile, even though it's mass mail, it's more personal and it's a guaranteed impression. So all the rules apply. Standing out, making it unique, timing is right. Some of the formats that we have created in the Conversion Factory, one was super cool. It was basically a window envelope, and it said, Jeanette, you won't believe your offer. And there was a red window here, and you couldn't see, it just looked empty. But when you slid it out, kind of like one of those spy decoders, when
Yeah.
you slid it out, your offer was clearly visible, but you slide it back between the red window and you can't see it. So it's kind of like a cool little spy gadget. But yeah, I mean, it's all about standing out in an incredibly crowded sea of sameness.
Right. So what is that company, or how do people find it and look at these cool things?
So I'm pretty sure you can go to the conversionfactory.com, or the company is weilengroup.com. Being one of the biggest in the country, they have pretty high volumes. They work with some major brands, so it may not be right for the small business owner. But if you want to kind of see what we've done in the past with the Conversion Factory, it might be fun to check out.
Okay, cool. And so the Conversion Factory is your company that has got stuff from this other company? Am I understanding that?
So that was, let me just make sure I have it. That was, they hired me as a consultant, and I created the Conversion Factory for them. So they own all the concepts, all the IP. It was just my concept of how to market them and get through the white noise.
Okay. The conversionfactory.com isn't coming up.
Yeah, looking for it for you right now.
Because I do think people will want to go and check that out, because I'm going to go check it out, because I'm always looking for things that actually cut through the noise, right? And even though it's a little more expensive, your cost per client acquisition or whatever might, okay, the Weilen Conversion Factory. Okay, WILEN dash conversion dash factory. Oh, the dash Weilen dash conversion dash factory is the URL, and that's after the Weilen Group, or sorry, weilengroup.com. So we'll put that in the show notes and the chat below this video. Tell me a little bit more, just to kind of wrap up here. What do you think some of the biggest changes that you're seeing in marketing to be effective right now? What are the things that help people stand out the most now?
So I think it's a clear, concerted effort to stand out, right? So no one really goes to the gym because it makes them feel good. They really go to the gym when the doctor tells them they have 6 months to live, right? So I think the pain is an incredible driver. And I think the overall kind of slow lowering of engagement on social media are making people take notice and say, hey, we call it commoditized content isn't getting the job done anymore, right? So they had a little bit of candy. Facebook, Instagram, all the platforms are slowly taking it away. Okay, we need to be more mindful of the content we're creating and what's resonated in the past. And I think that kind of all comes into who are we as a brand, who are our clients, and what's going to resonate with them the most. Because if they're willing to pay to put that filter up and filter out all the garbage, we better make sure our stuff is good.
Yeah. So then, am I hearing quality over quantity? I know you probably should have both, but if it's one or the other, I'm assuming right now we really need quality content.
You're speaking my language, absolutely. Yeah, I follow the rules set forth myself, quality over quantity, and I think it's going to pay off in the long run.
Okay. And this is going to be kind of a challenging question to answer, but how do people think differently or more creatively about their content? What are some inspirations that you use when you're trying to come up with some fresh ideas?
I'm glad you asked. So, in the book, or in my consulting practice, I've codified how brands throughout history, both large and small, have successfully decommoditized themselves. And there's 12 major, we call them planets, in the universe of differentiation. So when people hear differentiated, they automatically think I have to be outlandish or I have to be overly creative to stand out.
Mhm.
And that's not the case. We have brands like Sotheby's, Tiffany's, Steinway, all within the universe of differentiation. So number one, you don't have to automatically think I have to dress crazy or be funny to be outlandish. There's 11 other planets that can, most likely something in that universe can cater into how to make yourself fully differentiated and decommoditized. So I go through all 12 of the planets chapter by chapter in the book. If you want to see the universe of differentiation, there's a downloadable image on our website, decommoditize.com. And if you have any questions or your listeners have any questions about kind of where to start or if they're stuck in between planets, I'm happy to hop on a call and discuss.
Okay. And is it the best place to get your book at your website, decommoditize.com, or is it better to go to Amazon? Where should we go to get the book? And tell us the name of the book again.
See, the name of the book is Marketing for Supervillains by Jesse James Wroblewski. It is available. Easiest is Amazon. I mean, they are the supervillains of retail, so they've
Yes.
conquered the world. It's available elsewhere, but if I had to order it myself, easiest, most convenient way is Amazon.com.
All right. Awesome. And I saw that looked like it was a hard copy. Do you have
Yeah, hardcover, softcover, and Kindle.
okay, awesome. Way to go. All right. So, and what's the best way to reach you? By your web?
So I'm on all my socials, Marketing Supervillain. And if you want to reach me direct, Jesse, Jesse, at decommoditized.com. I know it's hard to spell, so I bought all the misspelling, so you probably get to me.
There you go. That's a very smart strategy. If you've got a weird name, get all the URLs that are close, but not quite that.
Yeah.
Okay, Jesse, thank you for being here and for the kind of interesting ideas. Tell us what's one piece of advice that you would give entrepreneurs who are trying to stand out in a sea of sameness these days. Or, what's one of the mistakes that they're making that they could fix? So what's one last thing you'd like to leave everyone with?
Sure. I like to let everyone know that every single brand, every product, every service can be decommoditized if you have enough courage. And the example that I always lean on is, let's think about water. It's free, widely available in the developed world. Yet, as humans, we spent $17 billion on bottled water last year. So think about if all of a sudden the government made your business free to all of its citizens. There's still ways to get people to pay a premium for something that they can get for free. You just have
Mm.
to.
That's really an example. Thank you. I love that. And hadn't thought of it that way in the past. So thank you so much for being here, Jesse. And ladies and gentlemen, ladies, as you're listening to this, I want you to take one thing away that you're going to go and apply, put it in your calendar and go do the damn thing, because getting insights, ideas, and ahas doesn't make any changes. It's only taking action on those insights, ahas, and ideas. So please do take action on this. Reach out, get Jesse's book. I'm going to order it myself because it sounds like a really important book to have to really be able to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. We are in a global marketplace. I don't care what you do, you're competing with people from China and everywhere else. So figure out how to differentiate. And this book sounds like a really good start with that. Thanks for being here, Jesse. Have a bodacious week, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.